Hello, my name is Kayla Dawson. Welcome to Lab 4, Second Hat, Part 1. In this video, I will show you how I found existing vulnerabilities within the Kioptrix 2 virtual machine through the use of Nikto and Nessus. Alright, so what I did here is split terminal into two tabs. On the left-hand side, I ran command nmap 192.168.33.0/24, which is a ping sweep that looks through all IP addresses from 0.0 to 255. I ran that same command again right underneath the first, except I added the flag option of system DNS, and what that does is uses the secondary DNS server on the Kali machine. Based on this nmap scan report of the Kioptrix 2 virtual machine, we see what ports are open and the services that are running on them. So we see SSH, HTTP, RPC bind, HTTPS, IPP, and MySQL. On the right-hand side, I ran command enum4 Linux and the IP address of the Kioptrix 2 virtual machine. What we get back is the target information, enumeration of the workgroup domain, NBT stat information, and the session check on the IP address. Alright, so to continue my enumeration of the Kioptrix 2 virtual machine, I utilized Nikto and OWASP ZAP proxy. On the left-hand side, I ran command Nikto switch H 192.168.33.112, and what we get back is an output of existing vulnerabilities within the Kioptrix 2 virtual machine. Same thing on the right-hand side with OWASP ZAP proxy. We see a list of vulnerabilities that were identified. SQL injection, lack of content security protection, anti-clickjacking header is not in place, and many more. So here we have the Nessus vulnerability scan results of the Kioptrix 2 virtual machine. Over on this left-hand side, we see that the host is 192.168.33.112. The breakdown of vulnerabilities identified. So we see that there's 2 critical, 25 high, 24 medium, 5 low, and 36 informational. Over on this right-hand side, we get a little bit more details regarding the host. So we see that the MAC address, the operating system that's running, which is Linux kernel 2.6 on CentOS. We also have, once again, another breakdown of the vulnerabilities, but now we see the severity, the CVSSS score, along with the name and then the family of vulnerabilities it belongs to. After utilizing Nikto, Nessus, and OWASP ZAP proxy, the following vulnerabilities were identified in the Kioptrix 2 virtual machine. First, SQL injection. SQL injection is an attack that involves exploiting a web application's lack of user input validation. A threat actor can type in a malicious SQL query into a web application's URL or through user login input such as username and password to obtain database information. The absence of anti-cross-site request forgery tokens makes the machine susceptible to a cross-site request forgery attack. Cross-site request forgery is when a threat actor forces an end user to execute unwanted actions on a web application in which they're already authenticated in. There are 3 conditions that must be in place for a cross-site request forgery attack to be possible. First, a relevant action. Second, cookie-based session handling. And third, no unpredictable request parameters. The content security policy is not set. One of the vulnerabilities the Nessus scanner identified was the version of PHP installed on the Kioptrix 2 virtual machine is older than 4.4.2. The version of PHP installed is 4.3.9. Older versions of PHP can potentially be exploited due to cross-site scripting vulnerabilities, such as having display underscore errors and HTML underscore errors enabled in PHP. The anti-clickjacking X-frame options header is not present, which puts the Kioptrix 2 machine at risk of a clickjacking attack. The X content type options header is not set, which puts the machine at risk of a content type sniffing attack. HTTP trace method is active, which suggests the machine is vulnerable to cross-site tracing. The Kioptrix web server allows password auto-completion. Nessus identified the web server for Kioptrix 2 has an HTML form that has an input of type quote password where quote autocomplete is not set to off. This puts users who interact with the web page at risk of having their credentials saved in their browser. The web application discloses information due to a malformed request. So one of the web applications hosted on the Kioptrix 2 web server discloses the physical path to its directories when a malformed request is sent to it. The web server transmits clear text credentials, meaning the web page of the Kioptrix 2 virtual machine 192.168.33.112/index.php contains several HTML form fields containing an input of type password. When a user types in their login credentials and submits it, the GET request will show their username and password in clear text, which an attacker can obtain through eavesdropping. And lastly, CGI generic server-side includes injection. The Kioptrix 2 web server hosts one or more CGI scripts that fail to adequately sanitize request strings, which makes it vulnerable to a server-side includes attack. A threat actor could execute arbitrary commands into the HTML to execute or exploit this vulnerability. Based off the vulnerabilities identified, my flaw hypothesis is a threat actor can obtain the login credentials of users in the Kioptrix 2 virtual machine due to the absence of anti-cross-site request forgery tokens, the transmission of clear text credentials, failure to sanitize CGI scripts in the HTML of the web server, and insufficient input validation. My recommendation for vulnerability disclosure is to disclose the vulnerability to the public once a patch is available. Disclosing a vulnerability to the public before a patch is applied can give threat actors the same time to exploit the vulnerability as those needing to patch it. To avoid lawsuits from customers and shareholders, it would be best to implement the following steps: create a vulnerability disclosure program, disclose vulnerabilities to authorized parties, Director of IT, CISO, or CIO, patch vulnerabilities in a timely fashion. The longer they exist, the higher the chance for a threat actor to exploit it, and then we're seeing loss in finances, loss of trust in customers and shareholders, and a huge hit to reputation. Due to the sensitive nature of vulnerability disclosure, sending a detailed report of the vulnerability through confidential mode if using Gmail, or restricting permissions through information rights management if using Outlook would ensure confidentiality and integrity of the message to the recipient. We've now reached the end of the presentation. What you see here is a list of the sources that I used in my research and in the vulnerability analysis of the Kioptrix 2 virtual machine. Thank you for watching.